If Mother's Day brings pain instead of celebration, this one is for you. Today, we are starting at the root, what the mother wound really is, how it shapes us, and how we begin breaking free from cycles we never chose. Welcome to Bloomera Podcast, and welcome to part 1 of 4 in this Mother Wound series. I'm your host, Brienne. In this episode, we dive deep into what the mother wound really is, how it shows up in our adult life, and why it hurts so much, especially around Mother's Day. We will also explore powerful first steps for healing, ending generational trauma, reparenting yourself, and finding forgiveness, not for others, but to free yourself. If you are not new here, it's possible that I met you back when this episode first aired. And if that is the case, I am delighted to bring it back to your attention. If you are watching this over on YouTube or Spotify, you might notice that there is no video for this episode. It was originally recorded before I ever started video, but don't worry, the rest of this series will be video. So if you're not following me already over on Spotify or YouTube, and you prefer to watch the video instead of just listen, make sure you find me over there. Let's get right into it. If you are listening to this episode right after I publish it, you know that Mother's Day is right around the corner. And if you found yourself listening to this episode, you likely have a mother wound, which tells me that Mother's Day hasn't always been the best for you. So I'm hoping that this episode is coming to you at the perfect time. Though I trust even if it's not near Mother's Day and you're finding this episode, it's still the perfect time. Raise your hand with me if you've ever been personally victimized by your own mother, or if your mother just straight up wasn't there for you when you needed it growing up. Me too. That's why today we are talking about the mother wound. I am a motherless daughter, and I know the pain that mothers can inflict upon us as children, and all of the ways that it can impact us into adulthood, relationships, and even into our parenting. You are not alone. By the end of this episode, you should be feeling seen, heard, understood, and have some tools to move forward and begin healing that mother wound. Your heart, your mental health, your relationships, and your children will all benefit from healing this wound. And if you stick around until the end, I'll send you off with some additional resources for exploring and healing mother wounds, including one of my most favorite podcasts. First, let's talk about what a mother wound is, how it impacts us, and get straight into the good stuff, ending generational trauma, reparenting ourselves, and how to begin the process of forgiving. Yes, I said forgiving. Even if you don't feel like that is possible, just hear me out when we get to that section. You don't have to do it. I'm just planting a seed. So what is a mother wound? You are likely familiar with this, but I still want to explain it. Our relationship with our mother is our first and most important relationship. I'm hurting as I say this because I never experienced that in the way that it should be, in the way that we all deserve. And I imagine that you are here for the same reason. So know that I say this with all of the love in my heart. Our relationships with our mother are where we first learn love, trust, stability, and security. It's the foundation of all relationships to follow, including the one with ourselves. When that foundation is not built properly, is damaged, or entirely non-existent, we are walking into the world at a complete disadvantage. We are wounded, and it is a deep wound, commonly referred to as the mother wound. I spent years searching for any information on this topic. You unfortunately see too many fathers leaving families or hurting their children with their inability to parent, but it's not as common with mothers. As a mother myself, I can understand why. There is a deep bond, a deep desire to nurture, protect, and provide for your child. In the case of biological children, you created this child. It is a part of you. Your cells and blood and DNA run through this child. And even if it's not biological, it relies on you to survive. Not caring or being present for this child creates a deep pain that not many can understand. This pain is also caused by many other factors: abandonment, neglect, and abuse.
And I'm talking all kinds of abuse, physical, mental, emotional, you name it. Mother wounds can be caused by not having a stable or safe environment to be ourselves, to make mistakes, or just to be honest. It can be inflicted by not having support, likely due to the patriarchal belief that women cannot succeed or express themselves. This can also sometimes be seen in mothers who appear to be holding their children back, tearing them down, competing with them, or who are just unhappy for their children's joy, talents, success, or good fortune. Or in mothers who are only connecting in order to meet their own needs, not their children's. Mother wounds are inflicted through generational traumas like internalized negative messages, unhealthy behaviors, negative self-talk, and toxic ways of communicating or handling conflict. Our mothers hand down their trauma without even realizing it or intending to. And we are entirely capable of doing the same, which is why being the cycle breaker in your lineage is so important. We will talk more about that later on in this episode, but first you have to understand what generational trauma is and why it happens. You can continue to be the way you were shown, or you can choose to be different. I've touched on this topic in a few of my other episodes, but it has taken me a long time to be able to talk about the mother wound as a whole. I grew up without a mother present in my life. She was around, but not available. She was detached and not at all interested in me. She kind of just locked herself away in her bedroom and neglected all of my emotional needs. Luckily, my father was there to pick up the slack. He played dual parent and was the one who bought me tampons, took me bra shopping, and comforted me when I cried, which was a lot. As a child, I couldn't understand why my mother wasn't around, and I certainly couldn't understand the profound impact that it was having on me. When I was raped as a teenager, I spent what felt like forever crying myself to sleep every night. My father was the one who was there by my side. I don't recall a single conversation about the incident with my mother, the one person who was supposed to guide me as a woman in this world, and be there for me when being a woman was the reason I was hurt. Around the time that I entered adulthood, my mother abandoned the family. Just up and left one day, Mother's Day of all days, actually, and she never really looked back. I struggled to understand what was happening, why she left, and I was already carrying so much trauma quietly as it was. I needed my mother, and she chose to leave me when I needed her the most. I spent well over a decade trying to have a relationship with her. I tried every single method, approach, and idea that I could possibly think of to get her to want a relationship. I ignored my feelings, tried to be supportive for her, tried calling more, tried calling less. Tried crying and spilling my heart out, tried being less emotional and more shallow in conversation. Nothing worked. Then I found out she had stage 4 cancer, so I tried harder. Eventually, she passed away, leaving me with no answers, no understanding, no closure. I had nothing but confusion, pain, and anger. I appreciate you giving me the space to share that story with you. And now that you can understand my relationship with mother wounds, let's talk more about the different ways that it can impact us. Just like we are all unique individuals with unique experiences, the ways in which mother wounds can impact us are also unique. I'm going to be listing a lot of the ways it has personally impacted me and some of the most common ways that I've heard within the mother wound community. I always recommend therapy and exploring mother wounds deeper, especially because you and your situation are unique in their own way. Here are 11 ways that mother wounds might impact our lives. They can leave us feeling unworthy of taking up space, receiving attention or success, or even love and acceptance. Because we did not receive this at our foundation. We do not have the self-confidence or security within ourselves to move forward, to know that we are worthy and deserving of these things. Number 2, in playing small. We might end up playing small in our lives. I have an entire episode on how to stop playing small that you can listen to next. I will also be sure to link the article in my show notes for you if you prefer to read that. The reason we might find ourselves playing small in life is partially because we don't feel worthy of taking up space, attention, or having success, but also because we were not given a secure attachment growing up to show us that we can be fully accepted as ourselves. We were not shown an environment where expressing ourselves, succeeding, or even failing felt safe or respected, or even acknowledged in some cases. Number 3, constantly feeling like you're not good enough or like there is something wrong with you. Like it's your fault that people can't stay or treat you right. Because you were never shown that from your foundational support system, the very person that you should have been able to rely on the most for these feelings of acceptance, reliability, and security. This is very common. Number 4, putting others' needs before our own, to a point that you are absolutely drained and maybe even feeling resentful. Because your needs were not met as a child, you end up people-pleasing to the point where we might no longer realize we even have needs. And we might put our worth or value into self-sacrificing to this degree, in working so hard to give others what we wished that we could have, or that we were forced to provide at such a young age. Number 5, perfectionism. This can show up as constantly feeling the need to prove ourselves or seeking validation through being perfect. Because we did not learn as a child that we were enough as we were, or that mistakes were expected and welcomed as learning experiences. We might internalize these mistakes or any perceived flaw as failure, to not be good enough. I have another episode on how to overcome perfectionism that can be found wherever you are listening to this podcast now. I will also include a link in the show notes for you. Number 6, an inability to trust or open up to others, or a complete lack of understanding for healthy boundaries in relationships. We were never given a safe space to trust or rely on our mothers, or we were shown unhealthy boundaries and have continued to carry that forward in our lives. Number 7, an inability to trust ourselves, which can be seen in not being able to express ourselves or be who we are, because we were not accepted or celebrated in the ways that we needed growing up. We don't know how to accept or celebrate ourselves, which can lead to not being able to trust yourself, your decisions, or your needs. Number 8, anxiety. The part of my life in which I experienced the most anxiety was the part of my life where I was not trusting myself. I did not feel confident in making decisions and trusting myself or in knowing what I needed and giving it to myself. Because of this, anxiety flourished in my life during this time. Number 9, depression. This is a very depressing situation to experience. And naturally, depression can be a symptom of a mother wound for that reason. Number 10, substance abuse struggles. Coping with a mother wound is incredibly challenging, and if we are not given the right tools or seeking them out for ourselves, we can find ourselves coping in unhealthy ways. Number 11, other addictions like work, shopping, gaming, or gambling. For the same reason as substance abuse struggles, we can find ourselves struggling with other forms of addictions. And let's talk about how it impacts relationships. Our experience with our mothers, the first feminine role in our childhood, sets the stage for expectations and views of women, regardless of how we identify ourselves. It can determine the women that we seek out for friends or romantic partners. It can impact how we view and treat other women in our community. If we have seen the negative side of women in this world, we will either respond with that same treatment or just come to expect that from other women we come across. And of course, we know that we should be empowering other women. It may not come as naturally to those of us who have mother wounds. Go listen to my episode on empowering women if you need some help in that area, or just a good reminder. With a mother wound, we might be accepting unhealthy, toxic, or abusive behaviors from others because we do not believe that we deserve anything greater for ourselves. Or we haven't seen more healthy behaviors to know that they even exist. Part of this could be from attachment disorders that we have formed with our mother wounds. We will find ourselves seeking out validation in similar relationship patterns, not necessarily because we like them, but because it is how we identify love or what feels most comfortable for us. And not comfortable in an enjoyable sense, but more in a familiar sense. For example, if you have an anxious attachment style, you might be needing more reassurance that you are good enough, pretty enough, or worthy of sticking around because you don't believe it yourself. You might feel dependent on your partner for having your needs met and incredibly anxious worrying about them leaving you or being upset with you. Or you might be like me and have an avoidant attachment style. You might be social and easy to be around but are overly independent. You don't like relying on others and prefer to meet your own needs. The avoidant part of this attachment is that it keeps you from letting people in too far or getting too vulnerable with others. You keep them at a safe distance to try to prevent yourself from getting hurt. Even beyond romantic relationships, these relationship patterns and attachment styles can be found in friendships as well. I spoke about this in my episode on friendship breakups. Once I had realized that I was replaying these patterns in my romantic relationships, I spent so much time working to heal that, only to discover that I had repeated these patterns in other relationships in my life, not just the romantic ones. So this is my reminder to constantly review all of the relationships in your life, personal and professional, to try to see if you find any types of patterns. Sometimes your relationships with other women can be strained. Whether you were shown unhealthy dynamics between yourself and your mother and other women, or you were hurt or abandoned. These are all negative associations with women that you carry forward. We step into this world accepting and agreeing to what we walk into, and oftentimes we don't question any of it for years, if at all. Like I mentioned, I found myself being in unhealthy dynamics with other women many times before realizing what was happening and why. I was either ending up with people who were overly nurturing to a point where they needed to rescue or fix me, or I was intimidated or not trusting of other women, and not in a pick-me-girl kind of way. I'm sure that has its own deep-rooted causes. This was just an attempt at avoidance completely, not an attempt in trying to put other women down. And mother wounds absolutely impact our relationships with children in more than a few ways. When your wounded inner child comes up, you can find itself repeating unhealthy patterns of generational trauma without you even realizing it. Be gentle with yourself, and remember this was how you were taught to be and act in this world, facing such strong emotions. It was literally what was modeled to you for how to be a mother. The important part is realizing what you did, acknowledging the pattern, and deciding what you wish to do instead, and to continue trying to be that role model for your children. Mother wounds can show up in our motherhood by acting as a pendulum swinging too far into the opposite direction, being so far extreme from what your mother was that it forms other unhealthy behaviors. If your mother was absent like mine, you might understand my experience with it. I certainly find myself so far from what my mother did sometimes that I'm no longer allowing my children to have a healthy amount of independence to cope with their emotions, feel their emotions, process them, without trying to jump in immediately and fix everything for them. I'm also setting aside all of my own personal needs, feelings, or experiences to always put theirs first. Yes, to some degree, I understand that's what parenting is. But remember earlier when I mentioned giving and caring to others to a point where it was painful, draining, or damaging to you? It's like that. The book and theory of the cycle of security really helped me to realize that a healthy distance to care for yourself and allow your child to care for themselves in a safe environment while remaining present, supportive, and attentive is important. I'm including a link in my show notes for the book and a very short but powerful video demonstrating this concept. Basically, the video shows a child playing and a parent watching nearby. The child goes a little distance away, plays, but comes back to ensure that their parent is still there, present and providing safety, if needed. And then they go away again, maybe this time a little bit further, for a little bit longer. And this pattern of slowly going out into the world and experiencing it independently, but also knowing and coming back to a point of safety and security, is the general concept of the circle of security. This book and teaching goes much more in depth, of course, so make sure you dive into that on your own, or even better, with a therapist to explore that further. Now let's talk about what generational trauma is and how to end it. I talked about this in my episode on intergenerational trauma and how it ends with us. I will include a little bit of that here too, but definitely go back and check it out if you want to hear more. Trauma can pass through multiple generations completely unseen and is referred to as generational trauma. Some of these traumas have become so embedded within the family structure that can make it almost impossible for the members to view the world any differently than what they've been shown. Because of this, trauma cycles can easily continue. However, once you start digging and actually observing, these traumas can become obvious and hard to ignore. Children are like sponges, constantly absorbing everything that they see, hear, and experience. They are soaking up newly learned behaviors every single day, especially from their caretakers, their first trusted teachers. Children grow up observing certain ways of coping, thinking, or reacting. These observations are lessons that are like seeds being planted in their minds. Those seeds are watered through witnessing the repetition of those behaviors or core beliefs from their trusted source. Each generation learns from the one before them, receiving messages about themselves and the world around them. What they do with those messages can either continue, change, or end the cycle of trauma. So with a mother wound, your mother has passed down her own generational traumas, ones that she likely received from the generation before her. She likely didn't know anything different and or didn't rebel against the beliefs and just continued them throughout her life into your generation. The fact that you are listening to this episode tells me that you can see what is wrong with the generational cycles happening. That is the first and most important step, acknowledging and seeing that it didn't start with you, but realizing that it can end with you, that you have a choice. Know that you can be the gatekeeper for your family. You can decide what you allow into your home, into your family, and into your children's lives if you choose to have them. You get to choose how conflict is handled, how uncomfortable situations are addressed, how big feelings are expressed and treated and cared for. If this is what you choose to do, or you are already actively doing that for yourself and for your family, congrats, you are a cycle breaker, breaking all of the unhealthy cycles coming from generations before you. It's not easy. It's incredibly painful to take on the pain of generations before you, to crack it open entirely and go against everything that you thought you knew about life, yourself, your family, and the world. Many will see you as the black sheep of the family. Trust me, I've been called this myself more than once. Because everyone goes with what they know in the family, continuing trends, behaviors, and beliefs. The one who questions it seems odd, strange, and can even be treated as an outcast. But that's okay. I'm not trying to fit into a family dynamic that does not serve me. I am not trying to fit in and accept treatment that I know I do not have to tolerate, and that I know I do not deserve. Apart from feeling misunderstood with family, you can also feel misunderstood by the outside world. I can't tell you how many times I've been told, "But she's your mother," and encouraged to take part in an unhealthy relationship. The pressure from people who couldn't fathom a mother that did not want to be present for her child, nurture her child, or who didn't have the best intentions with her child. Just because you can't understand something doesn't mean it isn't real. But it sure made me question my own reality for a few years. To be incredibly vulnerable with you, I found out through my mother's will, after she passed away, that she had put in a legal document that I was estranged an entire decade before I read that or had any idea. I spent over 10 years attempting to mend a relationship that did not exist. It kept me knocking at a door that was not only shut, but locked, moved, shredded like the doors in Monsters, Inc. So regardless of what other people understand or don't understand, And regardless of what other people think they know about mothers, I'm here to tell you that your experience is valid. Your pain is real, and you know what is best for you. Tune out anyone who thinks they know any better than you, or better yet, remove them from your inner circle. I had an ex one time tell me that it was a red flag that I couldn't have a healthy relationship with my mother, as if it was my responsibility as a child, or as if mothers were somehow absolved or incapable of doing any harm to their children. Well, there is a reason he is an ex. The most helpful skill that I have learned as a woman walking this world with a mother wound is reparenting myself. For me, it honestly started out a little bit like sitting down, closing my eyes, and having a conversation with myself, stating a worry, a concern, emotion, or thought, and then picturing a child or myself as a child saying that, and then thinking about how I would respond. So if this child or my inner child came to me with anxiety, I would listen to the worries and the situation at hand, and I would take myself out of that role and think about how I would respond to somebody else, a loved one, that child. This was much harder for me when I first started out. It felt awkward and weird. So if that's how it is for you, I would recommend doing a quick brain dump, which I talk about in a lot of my episodes. I would write out every thought I have for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I would go back through them and address them as if a child, a loved one, or myself as a child had written it to me asking for guidance. In the beginning, it was almost easier to picture some future child of mine talking to me. Over time, I began to picture myself much younger, almost down to a specific age, which can tell you a lot about where the source of the pain, anxiety, or trigger is. This information can be incredibly helpful to your healing journey. I know that for me personally, this awareness was an absolute game changer. And if you are a parent, consider how you would talk to your child if they came to you with these thoughts, feelings, or needs. And not from the perfect mother image that you may fantasize about having or being. Perfect mothers do not exist. How would a healthy, secure, and imperfect mother approach this situation? How would you nurture and care for them? Now, give that to yourself. Say those comforting and reassuring words that you need to hear. Validate those feelings and remind yourself of the truth that you are whole, you are worthy, you are good, and good enough. Meet your needs. Do some self-care, journal, go for a run, or take a nap. I'll have some really helpful links in my show notes for self-care and journaling if you need any guidance in that area. And remember, there is a specific set of journal prompts on there that go along with this episode for mother wounds. In doing your part to actively end generational trauma, in reparenting yourself, and hopefully exploring all of this in therapy, you are turning generational trauma into generational healing. My aunt once told me that when you heal generational trauma, you are healing your lineage or ancestors' pain. You are healing your hurt mother, your hurt grandmother, and the healing continues on. But more immediately, you heal yourself, and you heal the future generations to come, should you choose to do that. And I did say that we were going to talk about how to start forgiving. Now, I know the thought of forgiving a mother who has done some truly unforgivable things might be a complete turnoff to you, and that's okay. Your feelings are completely valid. But stick with me. Allow me to plant a seed that you can water if and when you decide to. I spoke a lot about how I've been able to find strength in pain and gratitude in my negative experiences in my episode on why you need a daily gratitude practice. Mostly, I want you to know that forgiveness isn't really for the other person, it's for you. When we carry around anger, resentment, or disappointment, it's only hurting us. The other person isn't impacted by us carrying the weight of their issues. So what good is it doing to hold on to it in our lives? And in the same way, it certainly doesn't benefit them to release it, but it does benefit us. Allow me to introduce to you the ancient Hawaiian practice of forgiveness called ho'oponopono. This Hawaiian word comes from ho'o, which means to make, and pono, which means right. The repetition of the word pono means doubly right, or making right with both self and others. This practice of forgiveness is used to heal ourselves, others, and our world. Traditional Ho'oponopono consists of 4 main phrases: I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. This is meant to guide you through repentance, forgiveness, gratitude, and love. Repeating these words can help you to face the negative feelings that are preventing you from healing and is intended to walk you beyond those blockages. It's normal to resist some of these phrases, especially at first. I have struggled with each individual one and sometimes all of them when practicing. Keep the translation in mind and let that be your intention to make right with yourself and others. I'm a big believer that if you keep infusing that intention into your practice, that you will be successful. Another incredibly impactful mindset shift that was necessary for my forgiveness journey was to take the role of mother away from my mother. Set aside all of the expectations that you have or had for her, your view of the mother that you wished you had, and consider who she was outside of that. It's too easy to look at our parents and see them as just that, parents. We forget that they had entire lives before us and without us, even when we came along. They have faults, traumas, deep wounds, and challenging experiences. Mothers who were unable to love, nurture, or care for their children in the ways that we deserved have something deeper happening within themselves. They likely have a deep wound or trauma preventing them from being that loving, supportive, or present mother that you needed. So, consider who she was at her core, in her lived experience in this world. What was her life like as a child? Is it possible that she did not receive enough love, attention, or support? How do you think she coped with the stress? Did she drink or turn to drugs, or maybe her addiction was work? Did she shut herself away from the world or disappear altogether? Get angry or become very mean and critical of others? And have a lot of grace for yourself. I wasn't able to forgive my mother until after she passed away. That was challenging in its own way. She wasn't there to answer any questions, to give me any understanding, or to have any closure from her. This made me realize that closure comes from within us. We don't need other people to offer us closure. We need to give it to ourselves and for ourselves. When you are ready to get to this place, how can you find compassion for your mother? How can you look at the challenges that she faced and trust that she did her best, even though it was never enough for you? This is not to say that she is absolved of all of her wrongdoings, the pain that she inflicted on you, or any of the deep wounds that still ache from her. Understanding her does not mean justifying or excusing her behavior, because we all know there are behaviors that are not justified or excused. And know that these wounds don't just disappear. Healing is not about removing all pain and trauma from our lives. It's about finding a healthy way to coexist with these negative experiences that we've had. It's finding healthy ways of coping, accepting the situation, and not allowing it to hold you back from living your life wholeheartedly, especially in moments where you are triggered or experiencing strong feelings surrounding your mother wound, because it's bound to happen from time to time. So before we end this, I promise to give you a link to all of my free journal prompts on my website. You can find that in my show notes or by heading straight to rootandriseblog.com and searching for Mother Wound Journal Prompts. And you know I'm a huge advocate for journaling and self-reflection, so stop by any of the other journal prompts that stand out to you. And without further ado, here are some amazing resources to continue your journey of exploring and healing your mother wound. The first and most impactful resource that I have to offer you is the Unmothered and Unbothered podcast. Precious Tatina is an incredible human, so much so that she offered me advice in my time of need, when I knew I would see and speak to my mother for the very last time before she passed. Her podcast was the first real source of advice and understanding that I found in my journey of healing my mother wound. Everyone with a mother wound needs this podcast in their life. The next resource is the Mother Wound Project Instagram account. This account has been a regular source of comfort, guidance, and relatability. This account will also be linked. Make sure you go follow it. And the last two resources are books that have been recommended to me so many times that I actually laugh when they come up still. I'd be doing you a disservice not to pass along the same recommendations that so many others have glowing reviews for. The first is It Didn't Start With You: How Inherited Family Trauma Shapes Who We Are and How to End the Cycle by Mark Wolin. And the second, Bethany Webster's book, Discovering the Inner Mother, a guide to healing the mother wound and claiming your personal power. Both of these will be linked in my show notes for you to purchase. And that's it, my friend. If you are trying to heal a mother wound, I hope that you felt seen, heard, and understood in this episode. Know that you are not alone and your feelings are absolutely valid. And that my inbox is always open to anyone who needs that reminder.
Next in our series, we are moving from reflection to action. I will guide you through a deeply healing journaling and reflective thinking session, complete with some of my favorite positive affirmations for mother wounds. If you haven't already downloaded my free digital planner, this might be a perfect time to do so. I will have all of that information in the episode description for you. I'll see you in the next episode.